So, the update has been out a bit, and we have since covered the basics of it all, right? Right. We also went and got a bit more in-depth right afterwards with it all, right? Right again. And heck, we even sat down and had some fun with the side of it all that folk may not have even considered themselves, right? Right. But you know what people still aren't right with, apparently? The Enlightened Crown here. Now, I don't blame them, really, as I see the potential for far more. However, I also like what we've still got, so there's that. The thing is, though, what do we got? Is it actually worthy of being endgame loot at the end of the day? I really don't know. So let's just test it and see. But yes, there is absolutely something to consider before the numbers start flying here. It's accessibility. Again, it's gonna take a good while to reach this point of having all 3 celestial altars built and ready to roll, only to have to do even more events in a moonstorm to actually spawn in the boss, given that this new contraption actually needs specific loot, of course. The thing is, the loot is the only limiting factor, mind you. The boss has no respawn timer. So if you do have the loot, you can just spawn 6 celestial champions back to frickin' back if you wish, for all the game cares, folks. So then, perhaps an Enlightened Crown-filled world isn't actually too far-fetched. But before we get to that, what is this thing on its own? Does it actually stand up without us trying to make it good? Well, I think it's kind of hard to still argue against an item with no durability whatsoever in general, but once we start even adding in the big time passive sanity regeneration effects, the permanent light source that also provides a decent radius to boot, mind you, and the bloody fact that we can essentially net a free additional 42.5 damage per hit while in combat, things get really hard to argue against, I feel. I get it. The 85% maximum sanity gauge for both of those special perks could be tweaked to make things even better immediately. And maybe that is what they have to do to turn people around to it. But this is a late game item. Can't we just keep our sanity up during this time? Well, sure, if you plan to, that is. Or if you aren't going up against a big time negative sanity or a drain either. Yes, the potential damage drop-off of this crown is absolutely huge, and I can see the issues there. I mean, it's not going to take long to lose your Gestalt helpers against certain bosses. However, these are some extreme cases, mind you. Like I said, plan for it, and you're actually good, right? You can just eat Sanity Foods to counter it. Well, yes, but actually no, maybe. Because here's the thing I didn't even consider. While you will keep your Gestalt help throughout the fight without them might actually still end roughly the same time. And why is that? Because of the time taken for the eating animation of these Sanity Foods. Now, will the Gestalt fight end sooner? Absolutely. Every time, pretty much. But not by that much, mind you. However, again, Deerclops is a butthole, and that major sanity draining aura is kind of his thing. So why not just pit things up against the boss without it? And furthermore, how about a boss that's a little beefier too? Sure thing, so take Dragonfly here for example. And what we have is a character with a normal damage modifier with no other added benefits using a dark sword with a crown equipped. And as you can see, within 30 seconds, we could be potentially dealing over 5,000 damage if we were to keep the sanity high enough to continuously summon Gestalts. An ability that also drains sanity each time, mind you, but it's pretty small. It's not bad, but it also doesn't blow you away either. But what if you were a character that actually regenerated sanity through combat? How would that go? Well, perhaps not as great as you would think, even with some extra help from a sanity restoring battle song in the bottom right there. Still, this is once again dumb Deerclops we're talking about here. So lose the big sanity drain, and heck, you won't even need a song to maintain the proper sanity levels throughout the fight, even with a negative sanity drain still in effect. Yeah, I think Wickford is going to benefit pretty good from this crown. Well, minus the fact that she can't actually wear her helms, mind you, and I think that's what's also kind of drawing people back. It's a headgear item. Headgear armor is usually pretty good. But that all reminds me, however. Can Maxwell actually force the crown to work by forcibly lowering his max sanity? In a word, nope. I was thinking it would be neat to do so with this Shadow Duelist, for example, for even more damage output. However, it doesn't work like that, sadly. And it's kinda odd that it doesn't, cause technically, we are setting a new maximum sanity, if you know what I mean. Oh well, we gotta remember, this is still in beta, so who knows what's gonna change. But yes, playing Maxwell also reminded me of his niece Wendy and her lower than average damage, of course. So how does she fare throughout this all? Well, Abigail is usually what makes up the difference anyways, but since Wendy players should always be using her regardless, you kinda got a bonus coming your way. I really think you're going to be happy by what you see, especially at night or in the caves. The crown is going to be great for West too, I feel. So I then thought about whether or not a beefalo hidden an enemy would actually spawn the Gestalts in general, and if they did, would it actually cost our sanities to do so, because we aren't technically hidden the enemies ourselves, if you know what I mean. But the answer to both those questions is unfortunately the same. Yes. So do with that information as you please, I suppose. Naturally progressing from there, though, I thought of Walter and his slingshots. Could they spawn the Gestalts from afar and stay safe in the process? And yes, they could, everyone. And this is good, but it gets better. For you see, add in slower mobs that can be shot from across gaps like the Ancient Guardian perhaps, space, and cursed rounds here, and suddenly, you're not only spawning Gestalts every single shot for additional damage, but also Shadow Tentacles to boot. Great stuff. But then, throw in some poop rounds into the mix, and you get the most interesting combination of them all, really, as poop pellets don't deal damage, yes, they de-aggro mobs, yes, yet the Gestalts will still damage whatever you shoot. So who knew slinging poop could be so friendly, yet deadly? But yes, the elephant in the room. How does Wolfgang handle this Enlightened Crown nonsense? Well, it should come as no surprise to anyone that the character who could already melt anything alone will suddenly be able to melt anything even faster potentially. Still though, I think you're gonna be surprised by just how the eating animation can impact the timings of these fights. And I'm not sure if that's what people are noticing straight off the bat here. Not really the eating animation, I think that's more of a subconscious thing, but just more the idea that the crown might not actually make that much more of a difference at the end of the day. Well, unless you're fighting small to medium mobs, or have like 6 of the suckers at once, like you can see here. I mean, 13 seconds or so and Dragonfly is already going to be below half health? Yeah, that's pretty nuts considering that no one here is actually playing anyone with the damage modifier. But still, that took a lot of time to get 6 crowns. And if you don't keep your sanity up, you kinda lose out. But let's take things to just below the extreme, shall we? And yeah, it's gonna get nuttier. 6 Wolfgangs, 6 Dark Swords, and 6 crowns drop Toadstool down to below half health in less than 13 seconds, everyone. Even saying that out loud doesn't even make any sense. Listen, the crown is good. It's just not as good as folk want it to be, I think. And yeah, I get it, that's a stupidly obvious statement, of course, but it has to be stupid obvious. This is a late game item that takes a long time to get. And if it truly is the latest piece of endgame gear meant to hold us over for a while, then why should we have to go out of our way to actually make it good, if you know what I mean? And actually, that's not what I mean personally, as I'm mostly speaking for those questioning the very thing. But again, I do still understand the sentiment there. Oh, and I kind of just left this footage in to simply talk over it, and also say how we didn't even talk spices for more damage, electrical damage modifiers for even more damage, and of course wet mobs for even crazier damage. But have fun there. But yes, folks, there you have it. The Enlightened Crown within Don't Starve Together. And it's Don't Starve Together's newest toy. But is it worth the effort? I think it truly is debatable. Me? I still believe it's just part 1 of a set of 2 to 3 celestial pieces that will soon be getting throughout this year, so I'm kind of refraining from actual judgment for now. I think it's cool though, I can't really argue there. Thanks for watching, folks, well wishes to all praise the moon, and I'll see ya in the next one. Bye-bye.